Let's start with the 10 million shilling fundraiser.
Yes.
I know it's not your jurisdiction. Your job is to coach and to get the right balance between the team, who's going to be your starting props and your second rows and your backs and your team. Yeah. You're 23. But now you've been thrown into a deep end whereby now you're trying to raise money. And for me, I think I see it more as a curveball which you didn't expect to see. You are thinking about preparing the team, but now this has just been thrown at you, by the way. So how far have we gone with that? Has that money been raised? What is the shortfall? And what is being done to plug that? Two, from the two games we had against the Eastern Province Elephants and the Leopards, there were a few issues. I think our attack was very good from what we saw, but we had a few issues in defense, in the kickoffs, in the lineouts. Have those issues been sorted? If the game...
Okay, so two questions there. The non-technical one, I'll let Thomas answer.
Okay, yes.
I can deal with the technical one.
Yes.
Because he's best placed to give you a good idea on the finances and the world around that. So you've mentioned kickoffs and you've mentioned defense. Yes. So defense can be quite complex at times because defense has the tackle, defense has the shape, defense also has the attitude of the team. So when you put all that together is when you get a good defensive team. So we've worked on all those areas. One of the glaring deficiencies we had when we were going to the Currie Cup was our tackle. We feel we've addressed that sufficiently. We were fortunate to get technical support from the Western Stormers skills coach, Labib Levy, who was also here in the country, and he did some work with us. We were also proud of the fact that what he brought to us was building on what was already there. So the tackle was one. Staying in the tackle longer, so that means when our players are making the tackle, the focus has been on them staying a bit longer in the tackle. If you've noticed now, we do double tackles. There's a primary tackler and a secondary tackler, which is something we were not doing before. So that has also allowed us to put pressure on teams. So if you watch the matches against the EP Kings and the Leopards, had we not been able to put in the double tackle against bigger opponents, it would have been a lot more challenging. Our movement, our foot patterning is an area that the players and the SNC department, strength and conditioning department, have been working hard on to try and make sure that our players are able to drop and they're able to adjust their body position and adjust their feet when they're making the tackle. So I feel defense is an area that we've addressed sufficiently. Look, Uganda, nothing is ever perfect. We all strive for perfection. But when you're dealing with a group of players who have to all gel and get their skills right, then it always becomes challenging. But I'm happy with where we are defensively. We're not perfect, but I'm happy. You've mentioned if we're playing Uganda tomorrow, what would my concerns be? My concerns would be our ability to consistently put them under pressure. That's both in attack and defense, because sometimes we tend to move away from our strengths, which is keeping the ball, running hard onto the ball and putting teams under pressure, and then defensively just to be patient. Sometimes we get impatient and maybe we try and go for a ball that's maybe not there, and then we concede a penalty. One aspect of our play that has really come a long way has been our ability to play in the right part of the field. When I looked at the notes from my predecessor, Ian Snooki and Murray Ralston, and when I looked at how they were approaching the game, we were able to run with the ball, even in the last World Cup campaign, even the previous World Cup campaign when we just missed out. But we were not able to get into the right parts of the field. So better teams were able to keep us under a lot of pressure by just kicking deep, and they knew that once we're there, we're not able to get out of it. So we've seen now our scrum ups are able to get the ball in the right place. Our 10s are also tactically a lot better, and our centers are also starting to kick. So I think that is a big plus on how we're able to play the game. So that's the technical bit. I will let the CEO then answer the non-technical bit, and then I'll be still around to answer any further questions.
Thanks so much, William. You've asked a difficult question, which maybe it's not very difficult. Kenya Rugby, like any other federation, that does not have any revenue sources. So we rely on the goodwill of sponsors. Start again. So Kenya Rugby Union, like other federations, that does not have any sources of revenue. Yeah, we don't have a stadium, we don't sell enough merchandising or anything like that. So we rely on support, basically from support and goodwill from sponsors, from our mother federation and the government of Kenya. Those are our main sources. For all events we take part in, there's a mix and match of each.
Yes.
Yeah, each person will play its part.
Yes.
Unfortunately, since the beginning of COVID, we've not really secured any sponsorship for the team, which has left us relying on the mother federation and government of Kenya. So our mother federation in this case is Rugby Africa. So they have put in some money into the event. It's not all on us. They'll take care of flights and accommodation for a fixed number of people in France. But we still have local costs. We've got our local camp training costs. We've got costs, let's say, to take extra staff. We've had the coach saying he'd like more players. Those would come at an extra cost per person.
Okay.
So so the sponsorship part has not come through. Okay. Number 3 is the government of Kenya. We put in our request. We've not got any official response from them.
Okay.
Yeah, as we speak. So that's where the deficit is coming from.
So as we speak right now, it's only the head coach and his team which are going, which is I think 28. If he wants to go now with a forwards coach or a backs coach or a kicking coach or an analyst, he can go with that. I mean, to France as we speak right now, as of today.
Yes, they're only covering 3 members of staff.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So he's going with a team manager to handle logistics and paperwork and all that, and then he's going with a physio who will take care of the medical needs of the team.
All right. What about a team doctor?
That now would be extra, which is part of what we're trying to raise money for.
Okay.
The part's not covered, as I mentioned. Local camps, team will be in camp for like 10, 14 days. That's not covered. Accommodation costs, meals, allowances for training, and then when they travel also, their training allowances and any expenses they may incur when in France. Those are not covered for.
Okay.
You'd asked where we've reached. Our fundraiser on Mchanga, we'd set a target of 10 million. I think as of this morning, we're only doing 220,000. So we're still a long way off short.
Yes. Okay. Coach, now the big dance has come. Where are you in terms of preparation? Are you confident enough, or are you at 90-95% say that, look, now I'm good to go now. I think this team is ready to go and beat everyone in France.
We're ready.
You're ready?
Yeah. So if you think of it in the same analogy I gave you, so let's say the pre-mock was our first, shall I say, 4 games.
Yes.
Is it? I think the first 3-4 games. Then we got into our mocks. And, our mocks, I think I'd give EP Kings and Leopards as our mocks.
Yes.
So if you look at the progress from the pre-mock to the mock, and the final exam is now starting on the 2nd of July, if you look at the trajectory and the progress, I'd say we're ready for the exam. Now, to say whether we'll get an A minus or B plus, there's always the bell curve.
Yeah.
So what we do want is that we are at the top of that curve. But the team is ready. You can never ever prepare a team completely and totally. But if I'm looking at where we were last year in the qualifiers, we played
a year ago.
Yeah, it's a year ago.
Yes.
Senegal and Zambia, and where we are now, we've made huge progress, and we are ready for the qualifiers.
Your scrum and line out, by the way, I know you've been giving it percentages. I think you're giving it at 60-70. Where are you right now? Because for me, those two are very critical components of playing a 15th game. The set piece.
Our scrum has been on 100%. The concern was the quality of ball, and in the last 2 games, the quality of ball was excellent.
Yes.
Because that has enabled us to score tries off set piece. It's been a long time since I saw a Simbas team able to score tries off set scrums against quality scrummaging teams. Our line out, at its best, it's gone up to about 88% in the Currie Cup. At its worst, it's gone down to about 56%, which is way better than the 35 or 40% that it was on previous occasions. So in terms of the numbers from the set piece, it's looking good. But then again, there are always levels to achieve it. There's always a level to get better, and that's what we're aiming to achieve over the next week.
Thank you.
Now, 3 games to go. First up will be a clash against Uganda. I'd love to, what is your assessment of Uganda when you go to play Uganda? Considering they've made strides also in their game recently, and their first challenge, and the first challenge is always the important one. How are you preparing to face this Uganda, and how are you preparing to tackle the Ugandans?
Our preparations to play Uganda are like our preparations for the best team. Uganda is a very dangerous team, particularly when they play Kenya. They would rather lose against anyone. But when it comes to Kenya, they raise their game at least 10-15%. So they are a good team. They are a dangerous opponent. And the reality is, it's knockout rugby. So we lose the quarterfinal, we're out. So the approach is that we are playing a knockout match against a very dangerous opponent who are also good. We've watched the videos and we've done our analysis. They're quite strong. And of course, they've improved from last year, from when we saw them play Algeria and Ghana. So if we do not give the game the respect it deserves, if we do not give Uganda the respect they deserve as a very strong opponent, who are also looking to qualify. Remember, there's no one going to France who's going to France saying that I'm going not to qualify. Everyone is going there to qualify. So we're very clear that this Uganda game is going to be tough. In fact, the mantra in camp has been, this is the final. So that is exactly how we're approaching the game next week.
Yeah, considering from the first time you called up a squad, it had over 80 players. Right now we only have 28 in squad. Can you take us through the selection process? How hard was it getting to these 28 players that are traveling to France? And yeah, do you have headaches and that kind of thing in selecting, and just the factors you considered when choosing the 28 taking to France?
Yeah, at 80 down to 60 wasn't too bad. 60 down to 40 as well, okay, it's very difficult. From 40 is when it became a lot more challenging. So if you see the number of players we used, I think in the Currie Cup, it's probably around 40 players who we used in each match. Now coming down to the 34 who are in camp now, or the 35, it's been a massive headache. Because simply the players have gotten so much better. They're playing so well. If you look at our nines, Brian Wahinya is very unlucky to have missed out. But if you look between him, Asati and Tanga, there's not much between them. Ominde, who came from Oilers as well, just misses out on Kubu and Dominic Coulson. So Beldad Ogeta, if you saw how Beldad played in South Africa in the matches, and then how he played against the Leopards, the sheer power, the pace, the hunger. But again, if you look at Beldad and look at Kolo, Kolo brings the experience, brings the tactical awareness, brings the leadership. But if you look at the young man Beldad, it was very close. So him missing out again. So it was a massive headache. And they were all different talking points. Emmanuel Silungi, who came from Israel, just missing out on against Thomas Okeo and Malcolm Onsando. And then Brian Dirangu, just missing out against Dan Sikuta and Martin Owila. So if you're looking at those names and the players, very tight. And I've spoken to each player who's not made the squad, and we've had an honest conversation. And it's for them to work hard because they're all non-traveling reserves. If we get a case of illness, camp, or any issue, or an injury between now and when we travel, it's straight on the plane. Or if we get an injury on that side and we're depleted, they'll be straight on a plane to get to France. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Also now back to the financial things. Of course, you'd want to travel with your support crew, your
Correct.
forwards coach, your backs coach. How much of a challenge is it to you now if things stand the way they are with only 220,000? How much of a challenge is it to you if you probably don't get to travel with your backroom staff going to France?
It's challenging, but it's not the end of the world. Kenyans being Kenyans, I think we're used to hardship. And we're used to resilience. We are, and we're also used to adapting and making the best of situations. If I get bogged down and then I start stressing Thomas Odudu here on the side, that if you don't give me 2 or 3 people, it's over. It won't work. That's not the attitude that I approach things with. Thomas at the secretariat will always tell you, our approach has always been, what do we have and what can we work with? So if you tell us we have 10 bob, that's what we work with. If you tell us we have 100 million, that's no problem. So in this case, where I'm told I can travel myself and the team manager and a medic, what do? Do we set up Zoom calls? Do we set up training sessions? Can we set up lines of communication? And there may be well-wishers and sponsors who would be looking to sponsor a particular coach. So those are all options that we are looking at. But it will not be the end of the world. Because we've done a lot of work over the 3 months in the Karika. And it will be a big load on me, but it can be manageable.
Final 2 questions from me. If things go well, we might probably end up playing Namibia in the final. And now when you look at Namibia, it's a side that we've struggled playing against time and time again. What is the method this time going forward if we get there? How are we planning to approach dealing with Namibia to ensure we get to France?
Okay, I don't want to let out too many team secrets. But if you watched when we played Namibia in October last year, and we were leading at halftime, and we were just not able to stay the course. So we've critically looked at areas around the conditioning. If you look at the shape the players are in now, they're in much better shape than they were in last year. So in terms of being able to consistently stay in the collision against a team like Namibia, I think that is something that perhaps we've closed the gap. We'll only know how much we've closed the gap once we get on the field. And the other, of course, is we've done a lot of work on our aerial game and being able to field kicks and being able to be tactically smart against Namibia. So those are 2 areas I'll say that we've made big strides in, and we'll probably approach the game a bit differently than we did in Uganda.
Would you have loved the qualifiers to be in Africa rather than France?
Yes. One, it's cheaper for us poor African countries. Europe is an expensive place. Here we know the terrain across the African continent, and we pretty much knew it would go to a number of countries who were quite familiar with. But also number 2, I think as Africans, it's important that we take pride in what we have. I know sometimes we look at ourselves and say, have you seen what those guys have? Sometimes people come back and say, they've got equipment that's beyond us. Yes, France have advanced medical equipment, facilities a lot better than ours, but we should also take pride as Africans. And what's the saddest part for me is that we have our sisters and brothers who feel less African, so they feel perhaps more European, or that taking something out of Africa is a lot better. So as an African, that's sad for me. As a rugby coach, I just go where I'm told. So if I was told the qualifiers are in Australia, we'd take the team to Australia. But those are my sentiments.
I just want Paul to talk a bit about the Friends of Simbas, because we've spoken about the fundraiser. It's not entirely a career idea. So I'll just ask him to talk briefly about the Friends of Simbas, who they are, and then maybe allow to explain how we structured the fundraiser to incorporate the Friends of Simbas. Because I'm sure there are questions, and there are always thoughts that okay, we're giving these guys money, but are they speaking the truth? So I'll just ask Paul to talk about this.
So on the Mchanga platform, you've seen the call to action came from Dickie Evans.
Yes, Dickie Evans.
So in 2019, straight after the final whistle when we qualified for the Junior World Trophy,
Yes.
A group of friends of the game called me and asked me if we had the money. I spoke to Tio. Tio was director of rugby. It was April, if you remember.
Yes.
Junior World Trophy was in July. Kenya Rugby Union just said we simply are not able to fund training because we had to get into camp. We have to pay for our country players to come. So this group asked what the challenges were, and they mobilized funds through their contacts, etc. So I think 10 to 15 companies were brought in. The chairperson in 2019 was Dickie Evans. When I was promoted at the Kenya Rugby Union to be head coach of the Simbas, I asked them if they would be willing to continue with the support that they give in the Kenya Rugby Union, but now with the Simbas. I had a meeting and they said yes, they would be willing to come through. So for example, last year when we were preparing to go to South Africa, the KRU, I think, was trying to fund camps, and they mobilized funds and put the money together. The structure is that a special account was created. That account has a signatory from the Friends of Simbas and also the treasurer of the Kenya Rugby Union. So this was so that people feel comfortable that whichever funds they're putting in, they have an independent person. But KRU also needed to tell stakeholders in the country that KRU are also monitoring the funds in that account. So that's the Friends of Simbas, chaired by Dickie Evans. Some of them really always do wish to remain anonymous behind the scenes, because they say their giving is to give back to the game. And they've never let us down when we've called. This amount of money in such a short time was quite a lot. So even within their resources, they said mobilize what they have, but they said, why don't we try and rally the country around it? So that's the Friends of Simbas, who have been very supportive, myself, but of the game as a whole. So that's the genesis of how this Friends of Simbas group was formed. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. So if I can just add on. So the idea to crowdfund was the discussions were held between Dickie and our chairman, and they felt it's a good idea to crowdfund. And the Friends of Simbas, as Paul is saying, they don't really have a platform, and they prefer to remain in the background. And that's why that appeal was put on a KRU platform. It is on Mchanga. Mchanga is known for its transparency. You can see all the contributors, can see the contributions and all that. And they've instituted some safeguards which are structured along what Paul has said. So any release of funds will have to be approved by our treasurer and somebody from the Friends of Simbas, and it will go into that account where we hold joint discussions on how that money will be spent. Yeah, so I just felt we need to bring that out as well. Yeah,
It's true.
yeah. Okay, so and that, thank you so much everybody for coming, and we wish Paul and his team luck.
Yeah. Oh, when's the team travel?
Wednesday, 1 a.m.
Wednesday 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes,
Yeah,
for Wednesday 1:25 a.m. is the flight time. Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.